Hey everyone, I'm gonna take you outside for a quick tour of my deck garden, little container garden. I don't really want to, honestly. I'm getting over a sickness, but I fear if I don't do it now, there won't be much to show because A, it's been insanely hot, and with the way I've been working lately, I haven't been able to stay on top of watering and what have you, and also because a lot of things are coming in and my kids keep pillaging everything and eating it. And in fact, I think one of these sugar snap pea plants is dying because my youngest tried to pull off one and uprooted the plant, and I didn't even notice. So yeah, or it's the heat, but it is, the roots are pulled out as well. Probably a combination. So some of the things are doing really well, and yeah, some of them, like these peas, are getting scorched. Some of it's just the nature of the design of, maybe I'll do a quick tour and then I'll come in and I guess share some thoughts that I have about this and gardening and my garden and whatnot. So this is our I custom built this planter to fit this space, and my kids obviously painted it. So we have some awesome sugar snap peas, same ones I plant every year. They're absolutely delicious, and for some reason, it's really the only thing that grows in this. These go off like crazy, but I planted a ton of stuff in here, and there's some random dill, it looks like. Maybe not too close together, I don't know. Yeah, this is like spinach. I don't know why this happens to all my spinach. When it grows, I think the soil is too loose. I'm not really sure, but everything's super loose, and it just grows super small, and then it shoots. Right, goes to seed, flowers, whatever, right away. But I got some wildflowers I planted in here. Oh, sorry, not looking. Some wildflowers I planted to attract pollinators that don't really come. But like my radishes, they don't do well. Anyways, I'll talk more about that, my thoughts on that. Nothing grows here for some reason. I filled this with tons of stuff. I got some stuff coming out recently, but this gets shaded out, but still, I don't know why nothing grows there. Okay, and I grow pretty much everything from seed, which is kind of dumb. I just, outside as well. Again, I'll talk more about my philosophy, but as you see this, if you know anything, you might be like, what is he doing? And I'm open to learning and hearing feedback, but at the same time, I'm doing this kind of as like a very casual hobby. I really like it, but I'm doing it, I'm learning by doing it, and I'm okay with that, and I understand the circumstances are not ideal, so I'm not too concerned about anything I'm doing wrong. I'm just letting stuff happen. So these are alpine strawberries that I planted from seed, and they've been this small kind of forever, getting a little bigger. That one's doing okay. This is supposed to be broccoli, but there's drainage issues in this one, and nothing really takes. So those are just random weeds. This looks pretty, right? It's nice, but this is my other broccoli. This broccoli plant is like 2 years old, so that's kind of cool. Most successful broccoli I've planted here, grown here. Broccoli's kind of hard. These are my beans. Haven't grown beans before. This is the first time this year. Sorry, Jesus. So they're starting to come. So this one's doing really, really well. Some plants are doing horribly. Like the broccoli just doesn't want to go. This doesn't want to go. Some of these don't want to go. But then the peas, the beans are unreal. This, I'm hoping, it's really early and small, but it does look correct. I'm hoping this is, I planted some tomato in here from seed, so I'm hoping this is my tomato finally coming in. But you can get fooled. It could be another one of these. And then in here is kind of my pride and joy. So this is my Honeycrisp apple tree, some random volunteer strawberries, some mint that I just threw it in here, and it never dies. It's great for cocktails. Whenever I want to make like some fresh cocktails or something, we can come in here and grab some more mint, and it'll always be there because it grows insanely fast and well, and it's hardy. It's basically invasive, I think. But this is my apple tree. Get a shot of this. No, this one. So the story with this one is pretty interesting. I got it from my work. So I saved it. It was just outside in a smaller planter for like 2 years, barely surviving. And when I brought it home, I did have a bunch of apples, and I got a bunch of apples that year. And then last year I only got 1 apple. And I was like, well, what gives? And not a lot of pollinators come up here, honestly. So I thought it was something to do with that. But, you know, like I said, I'm not studying this stuff every single day. So it took me a while to actually think about, like, oh, just look it up. And realize that this kind of apple tree needs like a buddy. It needs other apple trees to help pollinate it. It needs to cross-pollinate from other plants. And before, when it was at work, it was with other apple trees and whatnot. So it would make sense that it would go off for like the first year and a bit that I had it, and not since then. And I've since put it in like a bigger pot and everything. And so this year I tried to trim it properly with the skills I've learned at my job, and prune it properly, and hope that it would do better. And then at last minute I decided to look more into what I just explained. And I was like, okay, because when it started flowering, I was like, I don't want to have what happened last year and only have 1 apple. So obviously I don't have a neighboring apple tree to help it. So I just improvised. I took random flowers, other plants, and just rubbed it all over the flowers. Just trying with different stuff, trying to sort of approximate what it does already with other apples and apple trees and whatnot, and then hope that like pollinators would come. And either I got really lucky with pollinators, or it kind of ended up working, just rubbing it out. Because I have 5 or 6 apples this year, all coming in strong. So very happy about that. This used to be tulips, and then I dumped recently I dumped an entire packet of Swiss chard. Actually, there's a marigold seed. There might be some marigolds in here too, randomly. Yeah, this is an entire seed packet of Swiss chard. So that's why there's like all these clusters. And they like, I've been having some issues when you grow directly from seed, but this is, I mean, it looks like it worked. So. Yeah, the entire freaking thing. Anyways, another pride and joy here. My raspberry plant, which when I got it was like this high. This is all in like a year. And last year it actually got me some raspberries in like November. Super random, but now they're coming in properly for the summer. And yeah, they're delicious though. Yep. I should actually pick a bunch of these. Really good. These are more beans. Not doing as well. This pot isn't very good. I knew I took notes at the end of last year about everything I learned, like just through the process, learning by doing, and recognized that some of these pots have drainage issues, and that I just never fixed it. This is rosemary that already flowered, so it's basically done, but it's still cool. I'm just letting it do its thing. This is where my strawberries hang out. Those leaves have never been bigger. And then Wow, look at this tiny guy. So these are good. A lot of random stuff ends up drifting in here from the air and growing. And yeah, this is like a full-on tree. Pretty sure this is a tree of some kind. Okay, so yeah, this is some sage. And these just survive like this through the winter. Once it's winter, I just leave it and they just chill out and then come back. They're awesome. These were my daffodils that come back every year. Some like daffs rooted in there. But yeah, a lot of random stuff grows in here. Again, that's from a drainage issue. These are just random flower mixes. There's some seeds in these pots and they're just sprouting at random times. So flowers. Here's my little herb shelf. So a lot of this stuff is I just did this with the kids this year. Some of it's not really working. Like this is some chives that aren't working for whatever reason, but this is parsley coming in. These chives are doing better. Chives are doing better. Some dill, which I don't know when to harvest it or how I gotta look that up, because like it's basically like this is dill. This is more dill. It's looking good. These are marigolds, flowers, and marigolds are natural deterrents against crows and squirrels and stuff. They don't like the smell. But there, and these are, what is this? This is some kind of salad, some kind of organic lettuce that probably should be in a bigger pot, but we're just experimenting here. We're just messing around. And then these, a really cool story around these. This used to be hanging down out front. It wouldn't get any rainwater. I'd have to water it, and I'd always forget because it's not up here. So like basically everything died. That's what it looks like in there. And like through the whole winter like this. Like look how disgusting this is. It's like, look at this. Just completely just, but there was one little green thing even through the winter. So I just brought it up here to get better sun and just watering it when I'd water everything else, and look at that. Life finds a way, am I right? Which is part of my philosophy I'll get to. And then this is a big thing I saved from work that was full of like annuals, except for this. And these just look really cool when they come in strong. But apparently my friend told me these are invasive too, but they're like a pretty popular ornamental plant. So I thought I was smart for keeping it. But and then this is crazy. I can't remember if I planted this or if it was a weed, but it has crazy flowers, like almost like egg looking flowers, huge. Look how they come out there, really pretty. So I think this was, I can't remember how it got here. And I'm just noticing that these are all new weeds. They weren't there. Wow, that's crazy. All right. And this is kind of like a little experiment shelf where I got my radishes in here that don't work. That bolt, that was the word I was looking for earlier. My spinach that all bolts immediately because of the heat, probably. It's just so hot and it's in these tiny containers, right? It's just not working. More marigolds and more parsley. So yeah, it's my charcoal barbecue. As you can tell, I manage this place and not my wife because it's not half as clean as it should be. But that's kind of the main area, and then yeah. All right, let's go outside real quick. Oh shoot! Oops! Oh, you don't want to see my feet. Cool. I'm sticking to the no editing. But don't think of it as laziness. Think of it as, oh, I dropped a pee. Think of it as like this. Oh my god! You got the pee's going all the way down the stairs. Think of it as like slow cinema YouTube. Like I'm the Bellatar of YouTube, or the Live Diaz or something. Okay. Whatever. Angle's good enough. So that's my little garden. Um, so I take a very relaxed approach where I'm really interested in permaculture, and actually one of my interests has been trying to think about what would it mean to do permaculture in containers and whatnot, which isn't something I figured out at all, but I figured someone else would have that answer, and it's not a question that I guess has ever been asked. So maybe one day, if I have the time and resources, I can try to solve it. But how could you set up your space? How could you practice something like permaculture or something sustainable like that? Not that like a little garden isn't already sustainable, but just philosophically or like practically speaking as well. How could you like practice permaculture like in an apartment or something like that where you don't have land? How could you do it out of containers? How could you? I just think it would be a really interesting challenge. So yeah, I take a survival of the fittest approach where, you know, I don't follow really strict like seeding rules with like spacing and stuff. I just kind of throw everything, let it grow, maybe weed stuff out. If it's like, you know, too much is like the shard, I'll probably have to, but also just kind of let it compete with each other maybe. I take a very like lazy approach, because like when you grow things in containers, it's just completely different from life. And I find like a lot of gardening, or nature I should say, and I find a lot of gardening advice is difficult to follow, not from a point of understanding, like I understand the steps or what they're saying, but it's just that every environment is different, every a kind of temperate zone is different, every day is different, every the amount of light you get in a given place is different, varies from place to place. I shouldn't be eating. So when someone says like, oh, I grow my tomatoes like XYZ, it's like, well, you're gonna have a different amount of light, probably different in sun entirely, like hemisphere wise perhaps, different climate, different seasons, different everything, different humidity levels, like all these things like end up mattering, so that when someone says I grew this kind of tomato in this pot and this happened, something completely different could happen for someone else, in theory. So for that reason, it's like you kind of just have to suss out your own place with what you have. You just have to just try, you just have to just grow. Like I would grow first and ask questions later, basically, and experiment. And yeah, I've always been wanting to take like a permaculture approach to it, and so like growing things together, putting more in than what they say is, you know, what they maybe recommend, and try to maximize space. And but containers are just incredibly fickle. Like if you don't water it and you let the water dry out completely, you've basically now, it's like you've moved your plant from like the environment it likes and is used to a desert. So it's getting stressed a lot. And then there's soil nutrients, right? Which is another thing I don't super follow, because usually when a plant is in the ground, it has the ground, and the ground just goes on and on and on. But in the container, it's limited space, limited nutrients, constantly fluctuating climates, entire climates essentially within like the context of the container itself. It's all very unnatural conditions, and then you're trying to grow like food. So it's just not the same. And so I just keep experimenting to find out, you know, what kind of plants grow the best in these conditions, or I should say in my conditions, within containers, in my climate, in my amount of light or amount of sun, etc. And so as you can see out there, the varying results could very well be something I'm doing. Maybe I need more nutrients in the soil, or this or that. But the start of the year, I redid all the soil, packed it full of nutrients again and whatnot, and I'm getting the same results where the things I'm trying to sow, like spinach and stuff, which I have grown successfully before, big heads of spinach, just do not grow in that planter box, whereas the peas go absolutely insane. The raspberries go absolutely insane. The mint, the beans. But yeah, but then you saw the spinach in a totally different container, which actually I think has different soil, or has in the past, and they're not even getting to a point where I could transplant them or something like that. Like maybe you say those containers are too small, and again, I'm just messing around. They're supposed to just be hardy herbs and stuff. But like with the case with the spinach, if it was doing well, yeah, maybe I could transplant it. But even those don't. So it's like spinach is just like doesn't work in my area for some reason. Maybe someone has some answers for that. But again, I'm just like learning as I go, playing it by ear, playing it by sight, and yeah, that's my thoughts on that. I actually think I had better thoughts, but I didn't really plan this one. And again, I'm getting over my sickness. But the main thing was just to show that off. But yeah, I plant everything from seed right into the containers, trying to get it used to the environment. Because for everything I just said and the difficulty that comes with containers, it's also really apparent that the cliche of life finds a way. It's hilarious because at my job, I see this a lot where I'm struggling to grow spinach, where I'm giving it like nutritious soil and watering it all the time, and yet I'll see like a blackberry plant growing out of like a puddle, a small tiny puddle of oil dripping from one of the rides in one of the areas I work. And it's like, how do you explain that? How does this plant grow out of like an oil stain, and my spinach isn't growing? So you got to keep the two, because then the opposite can happen, where there's all these specific rules. You got to buy the best, so you got to spend all this money, have this specific tool, plant it a certain way, but at the end of the day, the guy down the road just chaos gardened a bunch of seeds and he's got the best harvest out of everyone. That can happen too. So I'm kind of fluctuating between the two realities, and just trying to create an environment where it's like permaculture, where I have to do the least amount for the best yield I can, and it's all going to depend on what plants get used to my soil and my area the best, the quickest, and grow the best, and then just keep planting those. Like maybe next year I'm just not planting spinach or lettuce or any of the radishes of any kind. I'm just giving up. That doesn't work. But if I had 2 raspberry plants or a lot more peas, I'd have a lot more food. So yeah, I think that's everything. All right. Well, Don Quixote still awesome. Nothing to say about that though right now.